Ace of Diamonds, How to Challenge People's Inactivity. So this is a wonderful script when people that you're staying in constant communication with, and they just don't seem to introduce people to you. And you know that they have the capacity, that they have the influence, they have the connections, and it just doesn't seem to connect. So you call them up and say, hey, Linda, I know that you're really busy, and I also know you're the sort of person that goes out of their way to introduce your friends to a person that you really believe in, don't you? And I'm curious, do you believe in me enough to introduce me to the people that you really care about? And if they say yes, you say, well, now, if you were me, what would you do to go about introducing me to the people that you think are most likely to need my help? And it's an evocative statement to say to somebody, I know that you're really busy, and I also know that you're the sort of person that really goes out of their way to introduce your friends to the person that you really believe in. And I'm curious, do you believe in me enough to want to introduce me to the people that you care about? That's pretty evocative. You know, and it's an important statement that you want to check to see if they believe in you, if they're not referring people to you. And you might find out some truth to this. And it might be important to do that. It might be a good script that you might challenge yourself with, Bob, when you're calling up some of the people you haven't talked to in a couple of years. So acknowledge that they're busy always. I know you're busy, you know, so I'll keep it brief as opposed to you have time to talk. And when you're in person with somebody, let's say you bump into somebody and you have been in communication with them, you're in relationship with them, and they just don't recommend and refer people to you, and you bump into them in a grocery store, and you say to them, hey, I know you guys are really busy, and I also know you're the kind of person that when it's time, you do go way out of your way to introduce friends and colleagues to people that you really believe in. And when you touch your chest, it's an embedded command like that you really believe in. You're pointing to yourself that you really believe in me. And I'm curious, do you believe in me enough to introduce me to the people that you care about? And that takes courage to ask that question, because you have to be prepared for that answer. And my experience is most people are not challenged that way. So it challenges people to really look inside and go, yeah, well, I believe in you enough, I just don't know anyone. Well, if you were me then, what would you do to go about introducing me to the people that you think are most likely to need my help? And so that statement, I love that statement, if you were me, if you were, it's reversing, if you were me. And if you say it slowly, even to the D, you can say, you know, if you were me, what would you do to go about introducing people to me? And it causes a person has to move out of their role into your role and have to think from your position. And many times it'll give you a pretty interesting answer. The dialogue will generate a referral conversation. And it's okay, you know, to say things like, hey, if you were me, what would you do to introduce people to me that needed my help? Do you have time right now where we could brainstorm this? Talk a little bit about different ways that you can let the people that you really care about know that you're one of my clients. And sometimes when people are inactive, it just needs a conversation. I was with Tom Cook up in Canada at Strategic Forum, and we're getting ready to do a main event in Toronto in June of 2009. And I was talking to Tom because Tom has not referred many people to us because he really hasn't had a place to refer them to because we don't do main events up in Toronto. And so I approached him and I just said, hey, Tom, do you believe in us enough to introduce us to people that when we come up to Toronto? And he goes, oh, absolutely. I go, well, so if you were me and you owned my company and you were bringing the main event up to Toronto, what would you do to make sure people were introduced to us? And he said, God, I'd do a lot of things. I said, well, can we brainstorm for about 20 minutes right now about different ways to get people into the main event when we get up to Toronto? And it's the same dialogue. You know, and it's often a great dialogue when you know people believe in you, just to start, you know, somebody says, God, you know, they really like you. And go, do you really believe in me? Do you believe in me enough that you'd want to introduce the people that you care about? They go, of course I do. Great. Then let's talk about how to do that. Because sometimes it's not asking for a referral, it's making suggestions on how people can refer people to you. Sometimes you just need a good, healthy discussion about ways we can do it. What we can do at your work, what we can do at your church, what we can do with your family, what we can do in your neighborhood, you know, how we could, take some of the people that were at, your wedding. You know, I know that you had a baptism at your house a couple of months ago, and I know that you have an older daughter. I know you got a full life. What can we do to talk about the ways you can let the people that you really care about know that I'm your agent and you're my client? Sometimes that's what it takes. If people believe in you, they'll have that conversation. So let's go ahead and role play it.